Okay, y'all you cleaned up now? I tell you, my husband does say that women get together and y'all ain't gonna do nothing but badger men and cry. That's all we do. But I'm telling him today, baby, I'm changing lives. Okay? Through the tears. All right. Okay, we have our last but not least. This woman here. Okay? She's all about her business. She's all about her money. Okay? She's a hustler, baby. Just want you to know, it ain't where I've been, but where I'm about to go. Y'all ain't know I can sing, right? Anyway, guys, put it together. Put your hands together and welcome to the stage, Michelle White. Come on. Come on, baby.
Excuse me, did you meet her at the club?
I sure did. You gotta come to my club, baby.
Come on, baby. Love you, girl. Wow, this has really been an awesome event. Thank you so much, Ernie Peppers. I love you, lady. Wow, I don't even know where to begin. My name is Michelle J. White, and I'm a wealth specialist. I show people how to trade oil, gold, bitcoins, and save in gold. My journey was, this is, how can I say it? All the stories combined was like a combination, and I can basically identify with all the stories that were told. So I'm going to tell you my story. Like to hear it? Here it goes. I'm going to give it to you crisp and clean with no caffeine. Well, I came from humble beginnings. My mother was a nurse at Jacobi Hospital in the Bronx. I was born and raised in the Bronx. And my father was a pastor. I'm a PK kid. And, came up with humble beginnings, went to church on Sunday. My mother cooked dinner, on Sundays, but she was a hard worker. And I always wanted to be a fashion designer because my mother basically made our clothes, for Easter and, all the holidays. And I always sat up under her, to cook, when she was cooking. I always wanted to know what she was doing. So I would sit up under her, and she was a very strong, independent woman. And I learned how to cook through her and also learned how to sew. So I became I wanted to become a fashion designer. From junior high school, I ended up going to fashion industries. I went to fashion industries and, had big dreams to become this big designer. And one particular day, my cousin and I, we went to the same school. Excuse me, y'all, I'm just a little full with all that's going on. But I want to just, thank you. Yes.
Take your time.
I had big dreams, was going to fashion industries, and my cousin and I, we used to make clothes every day and, go there and just, style and profile and everything. And this one particular day, I was waiting for my cousin. We had to be in our first period class at like 7:30 in the morning. And, coming from the Bronx, I was telling you I was born and raised in the Bronx. And I'll later on tell you how I got to Brooklyn, the BK. But I was waiting for my cousin, and lo and behold, she must have got delayed, and I didn't want to be late for my first period class. So we used to meet at the deli before we go, to class, and down in fashion industries, 7th Avenue, around there. And so I left. I was like looking at my time, and I'm like, I'm going to be to school early. So, and I didn't get to the school that day. I got to the corner, and some man came up to me and grabbed me by my neck and put a gun to my side. I was only 14 years old. And he said, "Shut up and you follow me." And so I was just shocked, I had my book bag on the side, and the way he did it was like, you know, anybody from the outside would see, they would think that I was with the man. And so he lived a couple of blocks up. You know, the school was on 24th Street, so let's just say he lived on 26th Street, a couple of blocks up, but in the same, you know, between the same blocks of the school, but 2 blocks up. And so, you know, I'm like nervous and everything like that, and he had the gun on my side. So he takes me to the studio apartment, and all I'm seeing is like all of these like pictures all over his wall of him being in the ring, and he's like a boxer. And so I'm just looking around. There was no conversation really. I'm like still in shock of the fact that this man had a gun to my side. I'm 14 years old, like, you know? And so, wow, he just basically started beating me up and telling me to smoke weed and all of this stuff like that. And so, yeah, he had some weed on the side, and he started telling me to puff the weed, and I was like, what do you mean? I never puffed weed before at that time. And so he made me puff the weed, and I started hallucinating and different things like that. And then he tried to, you know, he tried to rape me. He never got a chance to rape me, but he beat me to a pulp so bad that I was unrecognizable. And just a couple of years ago, now mind you, I'm 54 years old now. This happened 40 years ago. Okay, I was 14 years old, just starting high school. Okay, and this is after the blackout, and this is after the Son of Sam. If your OGs remember that. Okay, all right. So we on track now. Okay, so that happened. How I got saved from that was a lady upstairs heard me screaming and yelling. Now, mind you, I was trying to get away the whole time. He had the gun, and he tried to get on top of me and everything. And I remember, you know, I told you I was going to fashion industries. I didn't put no hooks on my pants. I had just made these pants, and I had a safety pin there. So what I did was take the safety pin out and stick him, where it hurts. So then he got mad with that, and then next thing you know, I tried to make a getaway. The door was closed from the inside. Wow. So he punched me and knocked me into the bathroom, which was right next to, figure a studio, right? The bathroom was on this side over here, so I'm trying to make a getaway. He knocks me into the bathroom. So I fall up against the tile, my head hits the wall, and I remember saying, oh Lord, what am I gonna do now? Wow. And when I broke his chains off his neck, and all I remember was like the chains just, like the charms that he had on his neck just bouncing off the floor. So I'm saying, I'm just saying to myself, oh my gosh, wow, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do now? So there was a lady upstairs that heard me, and she called the cops. So when the cops knocked on the door, he's telling me to tell them that I'm his girlfriend, and that, we just had, misunderstanding and everything like that. And that wasn't the case, because I was all busted up and bleeding and all of this stuff like that. And it was just so crazy that when they came in, he opened up the door, they came in, and I just told him that he tried to kill me and this and that and the other. And it was quite obvious. They took me to St. Vincent's Hospital, checked me and everything. I wasn't touched, but the brutal beating where I suffered like mental issues behind it, because I never thought I would ever look the same. And I was 14 years old. And so, I thought my dreams were shattered, because I always wanted to be this fashion designer. And, I strived hard to be so. And later on, I stayed in school, but, I stayed out of school for about 2 months behind that. And later on, I ended up going back to school. And when I graduated from fashion industries, I got a job working with Yves Saint Laurent. Okay, and I worked with him for 5 years as a creative director, and I learned a lot from there. But before that, I ended up going to an apprenticeship program and worked with St. John's Cathedral, right there in Harlem. And I ended up working with a couple of, famous designers too, but never stayed with them. Just did some work for them and just basically an apprentice. And, worked with Vera Maxwell. Her husband was the founder of Maxwell House Coffee. And so, she was I was like one of her proteges. I did a lot of nice work for her. And so she would send me back up in a nice limo, to my job and everything. But for the most part, after that, things just started to change. And once I got out of high school, I ended up going to college to FIT and still trying to be this designer. But I had my father, which was a pastor, that always wanted me to, at least go be a doctor or a lawyer or whatever the case may be. And he just wasn't feeling me becoming this fashion designer, basically. And the thing is that I got discouraged. I really got discouraged. And, no matter what, to this day, I would never discourage anybody. Whatever they want to be, you can be what you want to be. And fast forward that, I ended up going to a medical technology school because my father was not only a pastor, but he was a chemist and a professor. And, he had his PhD in law, and he also dated Diane Carroll before he met my mom. And so my father wanted to be an actor. So, I just couldn't understand. Well, I want to be this fashion designer. You wanted to be an actor. And what happened? You know what I mean? So, to just, basically say that after that, I ended up, it's a lot of information, but I want to process it where, you all can get it. So from there, I ended up working at Holiday Inn. And at Holiday Inn, I ended up, taking Mayor Dinkins on tour of the hotel, met Janet Jackson, was going to her concert, Oprah Winfrey. She came here and did her show at the Equity, hotel and different things like that. And, I was just trying to navigate myself. Well, maybe if I'm not a fashion designer, let me just try to, test some other, trades out. And so I just started navigating myself to just try to feel where I wanted to be. And I did the hotel thing. 2 years later, got laid off there because the hotel occupancy had went down. And we were in the war, Operation Desert Storm. Okay. So Operation Desert Storm caused me to become unemployed. All right, so somehow or another, I ended up getting tired of being unemployed. You know what I mean? And so I ended up just going to school for real estate and mortgages. So I ended up interviewing and got a job working at a mortgage company, one of the biggest mortgage companies in the nation. And made a lot of money, made millions of dollars. I made, close to $2 million, in a couple of years. And in 2007, going into 2008, I lost it all. Okay, and I purchased properties, and people didn't want to pay me my rent, and just different things like that. And so I ended up going through my savings. Flatlined savings. I had, close to $200,000 just paying people's mortgages, my mortgage, but it was like, I had the people in the places. And I'm thinking that they're going to pay the mortgage. So between going to court trying to get them out and they claiming squatters' rights and different things like that, I just became flatlined and ended up losing everything. Not only that, not only lost everything, my father passed away suddenly. He died of a heat stroke. And then I was devastated because I was a daddy's girl. And then 6 months later, I found out that I was pregnant. Mind you, I had a daughter. My daughter was born in '86, but her father was a jailbird, and so I was always a single parent. So I always hustled and worked hard to try to sustain and to just take care of my daughter. And, she went to the best schools and different things like that. But after my father passed away, my whole life changed. because I had not only the creativity part with my mother, but then my father always gave me, no matter what I was going through in life, he always just kind of looked at things on the spiritual side, and so he always balanced me out like that. And so I was devastated when my father died. And so I started drinking every single day when my father passed away. I couldn't understand why. Why did you leave me? I was upset. I was mad. I was angry. And from there, I found out I was pregnant. And my father came to me in a dream and he said, the Lord said for you to have this baby. And I'm like, okay. So I had my son. I had him at 8.5 months. He was born the day before Christmas. And my son died at on a Good Friday. My son died on a Good Friday. He was born the day before Christmas, and he died on a Good Friday. And I was going to christen him on the Easter, and never got a chance to christen him. I had to bury him in the suit that I was going to christen him in, and I had to order a coffin, 28 inches long. And the insurance that I had was not the right insurance. It was actually accidental insurance. Didn't know at the time, you know what I mean? It's just like one of those things, you go through life, you go through certain things, and you think you got this thing going on, and things are just frazzled, and you don't really realize how far gone everything is, and how many loose ends you really have, until you sit back and you start seeing how far you came and how far you slipped. I wasn't rock bottom, I was under the rock. Okay. Not only that, after my son passed away, my mother was still alive. I told you my mother was a nurse. I told you my mother was a nurse at Jacoby Hospital. Right after my son died, 6 months later, my mother went to work and never came home. She died on her job. Okay, so that was another blow. This is right after my son passed away. Now, mind you, my father died first. My 6 months, about 7, 8 months after that, I found out I was pregnant, had my son. Carried him at only 8.5 months. And then I had him Christmas Eve. He died on a Good Friday. Then right after my son died, this is the part. Right after my son died, my father comes to me in a dream again and tells me that the Lord gave him a year to come back to me because he's seen how much I was grieving. And this is the part that I'm good with it now, because like I told you, my father was a spiritual person. He was a man of God. And so this is what kind of got me over my son's death. Not completely over it, but kind of I feel, deal, and heal. I was, yes. And so my father came to me a dream, and he told me that the Lord gave him a year to come back to me. My son died at 2:39 in the morning at 8.5 months, and he died at 3.5 months at 2:39 in the morning. And that was the complete year right there. Okay. And so fast forward, my daughter was eight years old when my son passed away, so she was like my rock from that point on. But then you go to different levels, and there comes new devils. So I had my sister-in-law trying to take my daughter away from me. So the devil was trying to ride me, and I kept punching him in the face and trying to stomp him out because he wasn't going to try to take me down. And so I just kept saying, keep the faith. And why I say that was because that was one of my father's favorite quotes. He would say, keep the faith and never fear, for fear is in the dark room, and that's where all negatives are developed. Okay? And so I always kept that in my heart. And right before he passed away, he even told me about Psalms 103. But after that, I just started striving and trying to just, get this thing called life right. And after all of that, I had friends that I grew up with I ended up losing it. Okay, like I told you, I ended up losing my houses and all of that stuff. I ended up staying with a friend of mine. She robbed me blind. Wow. Yeah, lost everything. Lost everything. I had some things in storage. Then it was so crazy because after that, then I ended up going into a shelter and then stayed with another friend after that, and she robbed me. So they were all in cahoots with one another. So this is crazy. So then the next thing you know, she tried to sell me my clothes back. No, this is not a lie. She tried to sell me my clothes. The one of her cousins tried to sell me my clothes. She was like, "Oh, you interested in a brown leather suit?" Yeah. I was like, yeah, I was so tight. I was like, yeah, my brown leather suit. You don't know what your cousin did to me? And so when she heard my story, she felt bad and she brought a few of my things back because what happened was when she robbed me, I brought the cops there, but what she did was cleaned out the whole area where I was renting from her and bagged my stuff up and put it in the backyard, and I didn't know. So when I brought the cops there, the cops seen there was nothing there. They thought I was bugging out. You know what I mean? They thought I was lying and bugging out, Meanwhile, she done had an auction sale in the backyard with my stuff. So it's so funny because then it was like I lost everything, and I'm gonna get to the part about wealth because there's a difference between the have and the have-nots. Okay, all right. So I was in a shelter right across the street from where people was paying $8,000 of rent. Bernie Madoff lived right down the corner, around the block from where I was staying in a shelter. You know what I'm saying? So it's not where you live, it's how you live, and always it's in your mind. Like no matter what you're going through. I was the one that was homeless on the train in my travels, and I had people coming to me and asking me for money. You don't even know my situation. Like, what do you understand what I mean? So I say that to say that it's not all about exactly. It's what how you live in the inside. And it's so funny because I've been discriminated with so many things. Even when I had food stamps and whatnot, going to the supermarket up the block and whatnot, they was telling me I couldn't buy these cookies because they was from food stamps. You know what I mean? So things are just not right. No, they're not. Right. It's not right. It's just not right. And so I started thinking. I'm saying, wow, there's something wrong with this picture here. I said, God, if you pull me through this, please. I remember going to the library. I lost my job. Remember, I telling you, I lost my job in 2008. This happened in 2008. All of this stuff was happening all in back to back. So I'm in a shelter on 68th Street, across the street from Hunter College, and I'm walking up the block to the library. And when I come from the library, I said, God, I got all my stuff taken from me. I got some stuff in storage right now, and I don't even have the money to get it out. Flat line broke. Okay. And I just didn't like the feeling. I was surrounded by people that were, according to everybody, were the have-nots. But right in that shelter where I was, everybody was just like twisted, So, it just kind of bothered me. And so I said, this is not right. This is not fair, God. What did I do wrong? I said, I've always gave. I gave the shirt off my back to people. Why did I get robbed by my friends? Why did you take my family members away from me? Remember, I told you it was my mother, my father, and my son. Then he took my best friend. Okay. My best friend was my daughter's godmother. And I was in the shelter at the time. And I was devastated. I had just finished coming from my house and everything. She came down, she got sick, and they were treating her for the swine flu. And She was sick for the whole month, and the medication, she wasn't getting any better and better and better. So from Thanksgiving up until Christmas, she was sick, and no matter what kind of medication they gave her, it just wasn't making her better. So her brother Stevie ended up going and taking her to another, medical doctor, and they ran some tests on her, and come to find out she had cancer in her lungs, her kidneys, and in her breast. And so from after Christmas, she checked in New Year's in the hospital, and she never came home. And so we were 33 years in, friends. And, mind you, 7 months before that, the love of her life got killed they broke up, and, because he had a drug problem. They broke up, and it was like she was devastated behind that, because he hooked up with some girl. She said, you're a drug addict, you need to go to rehab, this and that. She ended up throwing him out her house. He ended up going to a drug program, came back, and they were trying to get back together, but he had hooked up with this other lady and started living with the lady briefly. To make a long story short, he ended up getting killed. He ended up getting killed because he wanted to, leave her. He left her. He made the getaway, left her and everything, and then turned around, and he just got killed. She had him killed. And so from there, she just started, her life just started declining and everything. And so in the combination of that, we were all friends from high school. And after my friend passed away, it was like I just was in search of something. And the fiercest part was, like, I didn't want to move to Brooklyn because I had a bad experience in Brooklyn when I was about 15 years old. Went to the Labor Day parade, and they had a big shootout, and I was like, oh no, I almost lost my life. I was like a gladiator, started running up climbing gates and all kind of stuff, my heart palpitating. I'm watching people doing the b-boy dance and whatnot, turning on their heads and everything, and I was having fun. But it turned out to be a bad experience, so I was like, nah, BK, I ain't doing it, right? So I ended up coming here anyway. Watch what you fear, and it's been the best experience I've ever had. I enjoy you ladies. This has just been an amazing journey for me, because, the very thing that I feared was the thing I needed to face. And when I came here, I ended up, connecting with some movers and shakers. And so I ended up starting doing network marketing and got into gold. So that's what I do now. I show people how to set up their financial portfolios. I'm connected with a company and partnered with a company out in Germany and Dubai. And I have your gold Federal Express, 24 karat gold bullion bars, Federal Express to your door. And from there, I'm also a trader, a professional trader. So I trade oil, I trade gold, I trade Bitcoins, and I show people how to do the same thing, how to empower themselves, how to cushion themselves, and how to prepare for the what ifs. Okay, how to build your wealth and your legacy, and for your future, your family, and your build your finances, your future, and your family. And so I just wanted to say thank you so much for having me, and you ladies have been really, really amazing, and I just can't thank you all enough. I love you guys, and thank you so much. God bless you. God bless you. Yes.
All right, guys, give it up for Michelle White. All right, guys, I want to thank each and every woman that is standing here, that is sitting here, that has spoke. I love you. I love you back. Cynthia, thank you for your story. Thanks for changing my life. Thanks for changing the way I think. Thank you for changing, my God, wanting to do this for us as women, because we also need a type of platform, and start communicating with us more instead of hating. You know, we have the same thing. It's just that we think different. So if we got on the same thinking path, I think we'll all be all right.
That's right.
All right.
That's right.
Okay? So God bless.
God bless you.
I thank you for coming. Coffee, cupcakes, and conversation. Thank you. Get home safe and have a good evening.
Oh, take a picture.
We need a picture. We need a group picture. Wow. Oh, yeah. You gotta do them selfies.
Do the selfie.
Ladies, so y'all want your copies today? It's only $10.
That happened to me, so I was